All right.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting, Finneytown Local School District Policy 0165.1. If you guys could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Item number 3, dispense with the opening ceremony and approval of the minutes. I'm sorry, number 2. Sorry about that. Item number 2, Treasurer pro tempore. In the absence of Mr. Oliverio, Treasurer, it is recommended that we appoint someone to be the treasurer for today. I don't know if you'd like to do it, Seth, being the vice president, or
Does anyone else want to do it?
anybody else want to do it? Or?
I didn't even bring a pen today.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Didn't even grab my pen.
Well, I got pens, really. My handwriting is atrocious, but I can.
Okay.
Seth, if you don't want to do it, I could. I mean, it is recorded, so we don't have, neither of us would have to take perfect notes if whoever's doing it, because we could just review the recording in order to.
It just has to be sent to,
We just have to have something.
I'll
Yeah.
do it as vice president. I'll do it.
Okay.
Can you pass this?
Are
to
you
Lindsay?
sure?
Yeah.
and Dave has asked that we turn them in as soon as possible since we have to approve them at the next meeting.
All right.
Third
Which is
Tuesday.
Yeah.
In the absence of Mr. Oliverio, treasurer, it is recommended that Seth Plott be appointed to treasurer pro tempore. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Item number 3, dispense with the opening ceremony and approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of January 27th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved. And I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or discrepancies or anything?
I guess we're gonna approve those minutes on Tuesday. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, as it reads, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Item number 4, consideration of school calendar 2025 through 2026. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
This is just for consideration. It looks like
Right.
we're approving it next week.
And I
I'm
assume
asking, is there any discussion?
Dr. Banks isn't here,
Well,
but I
I-
assume that the unions already voted on this, so we'll ask that on Tuesday, I suppose.
All right.
Eddie, to my understanding, it goes through a nice little process
Yeah.
before it actually hits us.
Yep,
So,
I'm just assuming it's already taken place.
one would assume.
All right. Item number 5, adoption of resolution in support of full implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan.
I know, should we vote? Yes, all in favor?
For the calendar? We don't have to because it's not a
Oh,
vote.
consideration, okay, my bad. Sorry.
Did anybody have any discussion for item number 5?
Do we need a motion in a second?
Yes.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right. Item number 6, discussion of policies.
So are we
I think
adopting
we have
this, or
to
is this
vote on that one.
a it looks like this is voting to adopt.
Mhm.
It's kind of hard because we don't have,
The context for this one?
Then it shouldn't have been on the agenda.
Yeah, so what do we think,
Can I move to,
well, it's kind of tough. We had a meeting with, no superintendent
Yeah, I
and no
don't-
treasurer, so that's never a good idea. So I think that's,
I don't
So is there a
understand
motion
this,
to move
Yeah.
this is there a motion to move this to
Yeah.
Tuesday's meeting?
motion to pause until,
I think that's fine, I
Next
don't
meeting.
fully
You
understand it
motioning,
either.
Lindsay?
I will motion to pause.
Okay.
and it was sent out, so, if anybody had any questions.
Yeah, for some, I just overlooked it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Motion to
we'll motion to
Lindsay,
pause that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. We will motion
Do
to
we have to
pause
vote
that.
to,
Yep.
All those in favor?
do you think we should have I think I'd like to have a roll call vote.
Okay, hold on a second.
Sorry.
All right, we'll just go down the line. Jamie?
Yes.
Seth? Yes. Jalicia?
Yes.
Eddie?
Yes.
Hold on. And Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion passes. Item number 6, discussion of policies. It is requested that the board discuss the following policies and policy changes as it relates to immigration. Policy 511, eligibility of resident and non-resident students. Policy 5540, schools and community agencies. I'd like to open up the floor for discussion.
So the first one, I think the policy is just stating that any student that lives in Finneytown can go to school here. Asking them their immigration status is not a question, that's not something that we ask, it's not something they have to show proof of. And that's established by the US Supreme Court. So I think that one, we're just discussing it as it stands. The second one, the schools and community agencies, came from a discussion that we had in terms of wanting to strengthen our policy from a staff perspective as well as from a student perspective, in case someone were to come in and try to remove a student from the school or interview them. So has everyone had a chance to read the proposal for 5540?
So I've had a chance
If
to
not,
read
I can grab it and read it. It's not very long.
it. No, I've had a chance to read it. Has anybody else?
I read it as well.
Okay. So really, there's nothing else more to discuss. That's pretty typical. So, yeah, we'll leave that one for second reading at our next meeting.
Well, 5540 is actually reading a policy. It's on.
It's what?
It's on line item 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I guess technically we're discussing
We're having
separately.
discussions and first readings of this. I don't know why they're all different.
Well,
This is,
we're,
written on.
They don't actually have to, we don't actually have to read the policy in full, correct?
Yeah.
It's just,
it's just discussion
Not
of these,
outlining.
it's just discussion of these policies. At this moment in time, we're discussing these policies. So, my take on it is, I want to deep dive a little more. We do have a policy committee. I would like to see if the policy committee takes a look at all of these policies before we start rushing it through, because if I understand it correctly, typically, we use the regular meeting as our first readings, and then the second readings is usually the following regular meeting, not special meetings for first readings for policies.
We've done it both ways. In part because we had already talked it and there are specific changes happening rather urgently that we needed to upgrade the policy a little bit.
For 5540 or 5?
I believe it's the 5540.
Yeah, we're not changing 5111. It's 5540 is the one we're proposing. We
Yeah.
had it at the last meeting, and then that's when I worked with the attorney to come up with something. 5540, yes.
Yeah.
I think some of the questions I had is just wanting to know, do we have a way to ensure like bilingual communication amongst our students? Do we have safe spaces for our families to wait if they're detained? Just kind of looking toward the logistics of it is what I am concerned about. Whether it be staffing that are going to be trained on it and how we respond to it are some of the concerns I have with it, but we'll find out more as we learn more.
Yeah.
Well, basically, what this is doing is just saying this is how we're going to handle it. Our attorney has to be informed. We're not just going to allow ICE with, if they have a warrant, there's nothing we can do, but if they don't have a warrant, they just come in. Some of the fears in schools are that ICE might come in and take a student in order to get their parents to come and pick them up, and then they can grab the parents' report. Other people think that they'll just try and get students that they don't think are citizens and take them out of the way. This is a way that they have to have a warrant, but this is more providing, I think our previous policy, which was sent out, kind of puts it in the hands of the principal, which I'm not sure is fair to the principal to put them in that position. This was, I think, just a stronger policy, similar to what was adopted in New York City, similar to what was adopted in other larger cities. And while we're not a large city, we are close to a fair-sized one.
And we're very diverse.
And we're a diverse school district. And, you know, not that I think Springfield Township's police department would come in and help. Like, there's legislation coming through that they might be forced to. So this was just to put in writing, there needs to be a warrant, there needs to be, our attorney has to be contacted to make sure the warrant is valid. We're not just gonna let into the school, and if the parents say they can interview the child without me, that's fine, and we'll provide a space for that to happen. But we're not just gonna let them take a kid out of the school unless we have to and a judge has ordered it. And if a judge has ordered it, we have to do it anyway. We can't stop them. So this was just putting the policy, made it a little more clear and put a little more of not a restriction, it just tied more to the laws and what has to be there in place. It was written by Jason. You know, in terms of safe spaces, I don't know how we can, right? If they've got a warrant, we've got to let the kid go, right? Or we, you know, and they still have to follow the rules in terms of, you know, minors being interviewed and stuff. But it can't just be if the parents say the principal can't be the witness. We're trying to protect the principal as well, or Lori, or anybody in our staff. These are the rules, and these are the rules we've set. You follow it. And again, if there's a warrant, you have to let the officers do what they're doing. So, or the agents.
So the information, so basically what happens is our resource officer will be the first contact instead of our principals. I'm saying nope.
Well, per that rule, like they're not getting into the building. We see the warrant until we.
With the help of the resource.
Yes, with the help of the resource officer.
Then, you know, elementary, it's a little trickier. I mean, he was there today, but I mean, he may not always, you know, to support in that way, but.
The issue for this policy was to help a better understanding for our staff on what they can and can't do.
Okay.
So.
Any other discussion at all, or? No? All right. Moving on to item number 7, discussion of policy 7421, restrooms, locker rooms, shower rooms, and changing rooms.
We need a motion in a second.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Move to second, okay.
Yeah, do I have a second?
Seth, did you second?
Did you second?
No,
Okay.
I missed who seconded for.
I motioned.
You motioned last time too?
You
I will second.
Okay.
Item 7.
Okay. I'm going to open up the floor for discussion. Anybody have any discussion with that?
So this one, I was actually in a meeting with Norm, our Neola rep, on Tuesday. I think we were talking about a bunch of policies, but this was the one that they started writing. So restrooms, locker rooms, shower rooms, and changing rooms, the policy 7421. This is in regard to, I'm going to try and not be as angry as I want to be. This is the one where the government is dictating who can use what bathrooms. And like something we learned, based on the new law, when we have a basketball game here, and if we are allowing the Deer Park boys basketball team to use our girls' locker room, we're going to have to put a sign up that says visiting boys' locker room over the girls' locker room sign. Make sure that boys are not using a girls' locker room, right? It's just, this baffles me. And that's just from a sports perspective. So this is now coming in to affecting the lives of our transgender students and what bathrooms that they are allowed to use. And the state law right now is basically the gender that's on your birth certificate. That is the your birth certificate close to when you were born, that is the bathroom that you have to use if it is a multi-use facility. So if there's more than one toilet, more than one sink, that is considered a multi-use, and that is what the law is covering. For single-use restrooms, we can set what we want to do with a single use. Now, a single use per building code, I believe, has to have a toilet and a sink in it, which our elementary school doesn't have. So I don't know where they fall, even though we made them We designed them based on the recommendation of the State Board of Education. So the way we've written policy meets the state law, but it still allows us control over the single-use bathrooms. And then it is up to the school to come up with a policy to make it so that all of our students are comfortable. But that's work that we have to do, right? To figure out how to do it. Like, it's like we're not going to make, in the policy, we're not going to make multi-use facilities that can be gender. But it still gives us the right to make single-use facilities, which is a sink, toilet, shower, or sink, toilet, right? And whatever construction code determines single use. So the policy is strange. There's some really poorly written sentences in it that are extremely confusing to me, but they match the state law.
Yeah, I know.
So the state law is terrible, but the writing of it matches the state law exactly. So the bottom line, this is following state law. It's not going to put a marker on it from from Mr. Yost, the Attorney General, because we're following what it says. But it still gives our administration an opportunity to figure out how to best serve all of our students.
So, first off, thank you for the hard work that you put in these policies. Obviously, some signage has to change, some funds that we weren't expecting. I mean, it could be $1,000, it could be $50,000, but some signage needs to change, probably some updates of some bathrooms need to change.
So, not to interrupt you there, but I've put a lot of work and thought into talking with community members, admin, lawyers, the policy writers. I'm very heavily invested in this one, and I would like to have a recommendation to Lori to have an admin committee to come up with the ideas for how to do that in a way that protects our students, emotionally, physically, in all the ways. And that would be my recommendation to answer the question on signage and what we do for updates.
Thank you for putting
And then they
eloquent.
may be working on it, they may have, something in place too. Probably have a team, but I think it's a great
Yeah.
suggestion though.
Which I definitely want to be a part of it.
So Lori's been in an awkward spot here on this because there's a conflict between
Yeah.
federal law and state law, and that's one of the reasons, right? This policy has to be board driven. But she's in a very awkward situation because not following federal law, which I'm sure is going to change very soon, could result in funding. Any federal funding that we have, and state law violations could involve her license.
Yep.
And her job and her career. So this is one that we have to, this is a big reason for a quick turnaround, right? And the state law is coming into effect very soon. I think it comes in next month. In terms of, there's so many days after the law is signed,
But we have time after the state law is signed.
This policy is written so that we can, the single-use facilities, we can adjust, right? We can make, the law doesn't address single-use facilities. It doesn't say that there has to be, this single-use staff bathroom has to be for men or boys, and this one has to be for women or girls. We have the room to make changes to the single-use facilities. One issue is, do our bathrooms in the elementary school meet the definition of a single-use facility? If it's determined that not, that is then work that we will have to do. There will be significant cost with that because that's our bathrooms. Right, and we might not even be able to have the design that we have of those bathrooms. We have no idea what the state is going to do.
Even the lawyers don't know. This question has come up and they don't know the answer because obviously it is a single use wall, closed, three full walls, floor to ceiling, and a door. But building code says something different, but no one really has a definition for single use bathrooms. There is no actual definition. So determining what that means is gonna come down to lawsuits, judges, who knows? No one knows.
So, I understand the concern, but the push for it, we do have some time to sit back, kind of watch, kind of talk to that, and talk to our facilities directors, see, get a good glimpse of what we can do before we start saying, this is what we're going to do. We do have that time.
We
Yes,
have
but no.
time before
We have some.
some time before we come up with the actual,
What we do with the
What we
single-use
do.
bathrooms. It's,
Right.
right?
but we do have to pass this now because of the law going into effect in March.
We should have,
Well,
we
we
should
not
have a
now,
policy in effect before the law
Yeah.
comes into effect.
That's-
We know what the law is, we should have a policy in place before the law comes into effect. And
Because you
all
know-
this does is says, we can adjust our single-use bathrooms.
This is essentially to help with that conflict between
Yeah.
federal and state. She has to have direction from us on what to do.
And this is the direction from us that she's following.
Neil?
Well, following state law, but also not really violating federal law,
Yes.
right? So this is the clarification, that this is the protection for Lori and our other administrators, but it still gives them the opportunity to
Take care of our
take care of our
students and
students.
staff.
Yeah, and come up with the best, so set the actual implementation of this policy, if accepted, is the next issue. So if this is the board doing their job in setting policy, then
Oh.
Lori, go ahead and implement our policy that best protects our students.
Our job is policy. I'm not arguing.
Right.
The expediency of what we're doing is where I'm
Well, we have.
The only thing that we're pushing for speed on is having the policy match the state law. How we implement our policy is what we have time for. No one has worked on admin, and I've talked to them and stuff.
And it's not
But
we're building a new building, so it's
Yeah.
important that we know
right,
our rules before the new building, and it's important that we figure out the existing building.
And Laurie's given us guidance on this.
Yeah.
and
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not arguing. I'm
Right, I get what you're
trying to
saying.
understand, because we are throwing, again, I said this earlier, I'm going to say this again, my frustration is not just this policy, we are throwing so many policies at a special meeting, and we're doing this fast. In my opinion, I'm trying to catch up, but I'm also thinking that I've seen the faster we go, the more mistakes are made. If we go slow and meticulous and make sure that every I is dotted, every T is crossed, I am frustrated on the speed. If this is what's happening, especially if it sounds like the majority is where we're at, I'm not going to argue against the majority. I'm just vocalizing the speed of this and other policies are going faster than we should.
so this one, I am not sure I see the speed because we've been talking about this since December. That's when Laurie brought it up initially to us about how we needed this policy. It just took until now to get it, and we have to have it in place before March 1st.
I'm not
This
arguing.
one's not fast. It's months.
Well, she's talked about this, when we got the emails, when I first saw the policy. And again, my question is, we do have a policy committee. So, did I
Who
miss a
met
meeting?
Tuesday, you said? The policy
Lori
committee met
invited me to a
Tuesday?
meeting Tuesday with Norm. I was on a call for 2 hours.
So were you hoping maybe that this would have gone to the policy committee first?
I thought I was on the policy committee.
I'm not, I don't know.
No, because you're not. I volunteered to be on the policy committee.
I think in
I don't know
January, we
any of that.
named Seth to the policy.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's- oh.
So I don't know,
That's
I
why.
can't say why you didn't know
So it seems like
about
that's
it,
why
but
you're asking. So it seems like that would be a question
Yeah,
that's
for Dr.
Lori
Banks.
maybe?
Yeah.
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 I think it was a miscommunication, yeah, maybe.
Sorry that occurred.
Any more discussion
Yeah.
on this policy? No, okay. Item number 8, discussion of policy 1540, suspension of administrative contracts. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. I have a lot of doubts and reservations about shifting this policy. Shifting this policy actually scares me. It's terrifying. I feel like we are, at that point, taking the power away from our superintendent, which we created a personnel contract for her, a job description with Tom, and part of that stated that she would be in charge of personnel. And I feel like that completely violates her power as a superintendent to make choices. And I don't appreciate the way that this was brought out. I think we should have had a proper conversation with Laurie and her team before doing that. So that way that people aren't blindsided. I mean, these are people who have been in the community and working for our district for many years, and I just feel like they weren't considered. I don't think they were able for this decision, and it feels like it was just kind of fast. I agree with you in that sense, Seth. This does feel fast. It feels rushed, and I think we can do better than this. I do. I feel like we can do better. I don't feel like it's our job to go and tell the superintendent where she should cut. That's not our place as board members. Our job is to, when the superintendent brings something to us, we take her feedback in consideration and she makes the final decision. It is her decision. It is not ours.
As I'm also reminded of our policy, we have two. I am also reminded, as I'm doing my research, we have two employees, the superintendent and the treasurer. So with that, I also want to make a motion that, since I missed the policy meeting, that at least we kick back to the policy committee.
And I'm going to second that motion. I think that that's the best thing to do at this point. I think that all of us want what's best for Finneytown, and I think that we could sit down and we could come up with something. I do. I feel like we can all brainstorm and work together, and we can figure out a way to meet in the middle and compromise. But I don't think this is the way. I don't support it. I'm not in favor of it. I just think there's so many questions that have not been answered. We didn't have a, I'm sorry?
Are we going to vote?
For the pause?
We had a motion and a second.
For the, to table it to the committee? Yeah. Anything else
No,
that
the
wants-
motion and second doesn't mean we're done with discussion?
Yeah, we're not done.
Okay.
Correct.
Usually it does, but.
Would it?
Well, sometimes.
I guess my question would be, if the policy reading does take place, what would need to happen? Is there anything that would need to happen after the policy was read?
So the process for this is that the policy is read for the first time. Then we have to provide the administrators with an opportunity to provide comment. Then as a board, we consider that comment, and then we can have our vote at the next meeting, and while taking what they say into consideration.
And I'm thinking about long-term. I'm thinking about, we just created the strategic plan. We just did that. That's our guide for 3 to 5 years. We have the construction starting, spring, summer. So I'm afraid by doing this RIF, it's going to cost.
What riff are we doing? We're talking about changing a policy that puts the fiduciary responsibility on the board. It doesn't give it to an unelected person. That's what we're discussing. We're not talking about a riff. We are talking about changing a policy where this board, previous versions of this board, abdicated their responsibility.
Okay, so
And gave up what they were elected to do. They gave up that role to an unelected person.
do any other districts do this, though?
There are
Is this-
24 districts in Hamilton County. 8 of them have this policy and 16 do not.
Which policy?
Like 8 of them have that it has to have superintendent recommendation and 16 do not.
Our predecessors built the dam the way they put the rocks where they need to do. The policy, they put this policy in place. I am concerned if we start taking out the rocks of this dam that was built for around 70 years, we're gonna start leaking.
And ultimately,
So,
it is.
I wanna make sure before we start taking the rocks out, or changing policies, I wanna make sure every I is dotted, every T is crossed.
Do you think you could send that list out to us after this?
Well, I'm
With
leaving
district.
to go out of town, I can get it to you
Whenever you
Tuesday.
have it.
Yeah.
I guess I just have questions though, like as a board, I have questions. I'd like to know like why now, like, I want to literally talk about this and just get a better understanding as to why, like.
Why now, I think,
Yeah.
from my perspective, I did not realize that this policy stated what it did and what it meant. And when it was pointed out, it was glaring. This is about checks and balances. This is not about anything else but other than giving us our responsibilities and what we're supposed to do and keeping checks and balances to make sure one person is not unilaterally making decisions for everything. And the reason for the rush is because we have been pushed to discuss and approve contracts faster than the board had said we were ready to do. That's the rush. If we want to push this out, I have no problem pushing it out, okay? But the reason behind it, it came up because we were pushed to approve and review contracts faster than we had said that we were ready for. So I feel like that's why the timing was what it was.
And you're asking us to compromise, but we were not getting compromise from the other side.
You weren't getting compromised from me?
No, not you.
Okay. Okay.
Not you, we were not
I'm
getting
like, I
compromise
tried.
from the administration. Not you, we were not getting compromise from the administration. We are bringing these at this meeting. That was what we were told.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to process what you're saying.
So we are bringing these contracts at the February meeting. That's what we were told, right? And then this discussion came up, so those contracts were delayed from coming up in the February meeting.
See, and this is what I mean, though. There's a lot of things that are missing, though. Like, I feel like there's a lot of missing pieces. Like we need to have a proper conversation and have all of our admin have a seat at the
Then we
table.
need the administration to compromise, which they haven't.
How's,
They never compromise.
I mean, but how's,
I think we're getting off.
Jamie, so in order for the administrators, if there's a first reading,
We have to have a chance to have, if you want to have our discussion and have our vote, when that happens, the administrator contracts have to come at the meeting after that. Because we have to be able to do our job, right? We have to be able to look at the administrator contracts and be able to do the job we were elected to do. And if that means everyone gets renewed, like every contract is approved, or if that means we're good with the financial standing of the district, then that's fine. That option has to be there. And it is not right now.
can I ask how you thought to look that, just out of curiosity?
What do you-
just,
how I thought to look what
Yeah,
up?
this policy change. How
I
did you know that it
didn't.
was?
We had a discussion. I was told to reach out to the attorney, and I did. And the attorney pointed out this policy.
So if we're able to table this, the discussion and the reading for another day, is it possible we can make time to find compromises, find diplomacy, and start working on compromises with the people that we need to compromise with?
I think that is absolutely what most of us here have recommended and requested.
And it hasn't happened.
a reading doesn't mean that
No,
it's going to
we're not
pass.
voting on it tonight.
Yeah.
That
So
we
what
can
is
still
your-
have the conversation Tuesday at the second
To
reading.
have those conversations, to table it and wait, not this policy, but to have, especially around the admin contracts, my request specifically was, we need to have that executive session and collaborate before we even review them.
Well, there must
Like,
have
we
been
need to have that
miscommunication,
conversation.
because I don't recall Lori ever saying that.
I
know
guess
she's-
that's the
she's-
point. Lori doesn't say it.
Well, it was in
She's-
my email to you and Lori both after the agenda for this was initially discussed and brought up in the update.
To have a meeting?
Until the executive session at the regular session, yes.
Because
That was the meeting.
Because I worked for, I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand here, I'm trying to,
We all asked for collaboration. We were told that there's an executive session at the regular meeting on Tuesday next week. That's the meeting I'm referring to and why I said we should hold off on these contracts until we have a chance to have that discussion. I firmly believe that everyone here wants to work together.
yeah,
Everyone does.
yeah.
But the way it was addressed to us in our last board update and the way the initial agendas were written, it made it very clear that no one was willing to collaborate with the board. That was the problem that we faced. And I'm glad that we tabled the review of the contracts because I want to have that collaboration. I want to have that executive session. That is critical. You are absolutely correct on that.
That's why I've been
Clarify what you
trying
said.
to do
So
this for the
there
last
wasn't a
couple of
we of the
weeks.
tabling of the contracts, that was Laurie's decision. There was no board discussion about tabling contracts because
Okay.
that would have had to take place during a meeting.
There was
So
no
Laurie-
board, yes,
Yeah,
okay,
Laurie said that,
clarify,
and
no board discussion.
There was no board discussion
When I say
that I know of
we,
whatsoever.
when I say we, I had a discussion with Laurie in email, and Jaleesa, you were in copy.
I don't remember you requesting, though, to have a meeting executive session. I don't recall.
I
seeing
didn't
that.
have to ask for an executive session, it was already addressed and said that we were gonna have it, so
You see, I thought you just said that you asked for that. You asked administration for that, and you didn't receive that.
I said we needed to have the collaboration. I may not have specifically said we need that executive session
Okay,
because it was already on the
We're going in
calendar.
circles. We're going
I
in
don't quite
circles.
understand your question, but I had said we need the collaboration.
And I don't
If need
understand
to, I
your
can read that.
response. I don't understand your response.
All right, well, let me
Okay, so
find it
we are
for you
going
to
in
clarify.
circles.
It sounds like we're going to have some sort of executive session, perhaps,
There is.
about that topic in the future. And that's all.
Okay, are we gonna push this back until we have a conversation at executive session? And then we can go,
Well,
We are
already-
Well, this
vote on
policy
that.
has nothing to do with that.
There was a to table the reading of this policy. We need to vote on that motion.
All right. Lindsay,
No.
I think you have to call for a roll call vote.
all right, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Lindsay,
No.
Eddie,
This is a motion to table? No.
table. Jalecia,
Yes.
Seth, yes. Jamie,
No.
okay.
Okay, item number 10, adjournment.
I think we have
I'm
to-
sorry, first reading, I'm sorry.
No.
You guys, just give me a second, I'm not a politician. I'm doing my best, it's gonna take me a time to get this roll. And sadly, I have not been able to grasp it because of all of the extra nuances that's going on in my life right now with the board, to be honest with you. And I hate to say that. I really do. This has been really challenging the last couple of weeks for me. I haven't been able to even process my new position because I've been swamped with things that aren't our business. So please give me grace.
I think you're doing a good
Well,
job.
Give me grace.
We're giving you grace. You're,
You're doing a good job,
you're
Lisa.
learning a role.
Thank you, Jamie, thank you. Item number 9, first reading of the policy. It is requested that the board consider the following new revised policies, which will be presented for final adoptions at the next regular board meeting. Policy 1540, suspension of administrative contracts. Policy 5540, schools and community agencies. And policy 7421, restrooms, locker rooms, shower rooms, and changing tables. Okay?
Do we need a motion?
Yes, may I have a motion?
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. All those in favor?
Do we have to vote on a reading?
No, you
I
don't.
guess you don't have to read in the reading. Okay. Item number 10, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming.
All in favor, say aye.
Yes, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Meeting is,